How does the acrylic material interact with the light source and actors? So this is the experiment room where the majority of the film took place. Polycarbonate was used instead of acrylic. After submitting coursework 1, further design decisions were made by my production designer about the choice of material of the cube. Due to the budget and health and safety reasons, the acrylic material could not be used. Therefore, polycarbonate was the best next thing. My main challenge of this film was filming inside the polycarbonate cube where the majority of the film took place. Shooting through a reflective material and it being in shot with the actors may have caused problems with my lighting intentions. I didn't want it causing unwanted reflections, nor bounce off light unintentionally. For the lighting setup, I used 2 Arri Kino Flow lights directly above the cube to light the characters evenly, and then another 2 further out from them to light the outer cube with the intention of them spilling onto the polycarbonate to add emphasis and texture to the material. Lighting the material in this way can help make surfaces seem alive. It creates depth as it protrudes the material from the background. It helps make the set more believable for the audience as they understand that the characters are trapped in an experiment room. Lighting the polycarbonate in this way communicates that the characters are stuck, and its purpose is to create a claustrophobic feel which channels a nervous emotional connection. Overall, I found out that I have sound expertise on how best to manipulate light and how to technically achieve the desired look I want when lighting the polycarbonate material. When researching how to light characters through glass or a material similar to, I looked into films and TV shows that film inside a cube like the Humanity Trials. It became apparent that top lighting the characters supplies an even coverage of light while also adding their own artistry to the image, where they selectively expose objects and characters in the space by the control of light and darkness. I chose to top light the set as it creates shadows under the eyes as if to make the characters seem dangerous. It helps to portray a dramatic situation and emotional state of mind of these characters. With the light illuminating the top of the characters' heads, it can draw upon spiritual associations as if God is looking over them. However, with the light creating deep shadows under the eyes, it is deemed as a negative association with God. In this case, Dr. Bates, the leading woman of this experiment, acts as his god figure because she is controlling and manipulating the 3 characters in the room. This lighting intention helps determine the piece's mood as it creates a hostile feel. To add more dimension back into the evenly lit scene, I first thought of using LED strip lights in the back corners of the outer cube. In preparation for this scene, I had no idea how they would react to the polycarbonate material. In my head, I thought they would give off a clinical look. However, it was quite the opposite. It added a disco presence which neglects my lighting attention and the film's hostile environment as it added unwanted energy. So instead, I had the idea of using LED strip lights along the top of the cage. Therefore, the light could spill down into the polycarbonate which would give off a blue tint through the material. However, this polycarbonate was too thick and the LEDs weren't strong enough for the light to travel through the material. So the next best thing was sticking the LED lights to the outer walls, which gives off the clinical environment that I want and adds colour to the scene while adding dimension back into the shots. A part of my research report in coursework 1 focused on how to manipulate reflections on the material to underpin visual metaphors about the characters' intentions and if they feel remorse for their crimes they have committed. For coursework 1, I carried out an experiment to understand where best to place the key light on the subject to manipulate the reflection of how I want it. A piece of acrylic was used for this experiment, as that was the plan for the production designer at that time. So going into filming with the polycarbonate, I had no time to redo this experiment. This experiment picture here would be perfect for Wayne or Azil, as it's a metaphor of how far they've come to feel remorse for their crime, whereas Mara's reflection should be the faintest of them all, as she shows no emotion for her victims at all. During filming, making sure the reflections differed due to the character's mindset was mostly forgotten about. I still achieved the look that I wanted from the reflections. It could have been a coincidence of where the actors were positioned in the scene. Mara, the character who does not feel any remorse for her crimes entirely, shows little to no reflections throughout the experiment scenes, which plays a big part in the visual metaphors that I represent. Similarly to Azil, he shows so much remorse for his crimes, and throughout the scenes his reflection is so strong, just like Wayne's. Due to timing restraints on the filming day, I made the creative decision to not focus on creating the reflections to exactly how I wanted them. It became too challenging and time consuming moving the lights between each shot. I didn't want it causing continuity issues later down the line, nor did I want to take up precious filming time. I was aware if I spent more time with the reflections, then it was my responsibility to understand how that can directly affect other departments if we run over. Therefore, I had to cut time so we wouldn't run into future dilemmas that could complicate my director's vision. So I was quick and decisive under pressure to not reposition lights in order to get the best reflection for the character's mindset. With that being said, there were some great reflections on the material from the lighting setup previously discussed. Having a professional work ethic is so important on set. I was always the first one to arrive so I can organise my paperwork and work out how best to set up the equipment. Being a cinematographer, you can always improve your work for next time. I really like feeling with one with the camera, so for this film I opted for the Steadicam approach. However, with the limitations with the kit, I had to use the Easy Rig. I thought this was a great swap. However, I realised after filming while reviewing back the footage, there was no stabilising effect by using the Easy Rig, which I thought it did, which means some of my footage is shaking. So then I researched more into the Easy Rigs, and I found out that their main purpose is to spread the weight of the camera on your back and shoulders, and to not stabilise the shot. So next time I need to research further into how to get the best out of the equipment. Even though I do like feeling with one with the camera, I will be opting for the use of the tripod a bit more.